So I'm sitting here in my shop today and I was thinking about something, maybe a strategy for those of you who are going to be using tools as your profession. Now, I use tools in my profession my whole life. I was an HVAC technician for a long time, owned an HVAC company, so do an HVAC podcast for a long time, so I was heavily invested in the trades. Throughout that entire time, I've used many different brands of tools, many types of tools, from cheap to expensive, and here's what I've learned along the way. Order supplies from the website that's made for the skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple clicks at supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with fast delivery anywhere in the U.S. First, when we start in a trade, sometimes we don't have a whole lot of money. In fact, a lot of times we don't. And you wonder which tools to buy, because there's so many tools out there, so many levels of tools. You want to buy the best, you can't afford the best, but what do you choose first? Because it's a two-step process, I think. You start out with what you have to have first, and then you graduate to what you wanted to have or what you've learned that you needed. It could be a combination of both things. For me, I started out with the most basic tools. When I started my HVAC company in 2009, I didn't have hardly any money. It was not a thought-out process. It was something that had to happen at that time. So I ended up with getting a recovery machine from HVAC, I think was the name of the company. That sucker lasted me a couple years. I got it off, I want to say I got it off eBay or something like that. It was something nuts. I got the HVAC. I actually got to use it for quite a while. It paid for itself because I only paid like $150 for it. Don't remember the exact amount. Don't remember how much the shipping was. Seems like it would be a lot. I got a Best Tech or something like that vacuum pump. I got an East Coast Metal Distributors, which is like a Watsco company. For those of you in the supply house domain, Watsco owns a whole lot of different supply houses. And it worked great for a long time. It was affordable. Both of those were less than $200. Now, when you graduate up, let's say you're an electrician, you start with just getting a multimeter from Harbor Freight, or something like that. Now, Harbor Freight has some decent tools. They have some cheap tools. Nowadays, Harbor Freight is a lot better than they were a long time ago. Harbor Freight used to be someone where you go inside and everything seemed very cheap. But now when you go inside Harbor Freight, there's some nicer tools there, and there's some cheap ones. Like you can go inside and buy a power tool. Let's say you want to go buy a drill. You can get a Warrior drill, which is probably the cheapest thing you can find that's not on Amazon or Temu. Or you can go all the way up to their Hercules and you get a very powerful drill, like their brushless model hammer drill. It has a comparable amount of torque to like your DeWalt, Makita, and Milwaukee. Maybe not quite that much, but you could definitely drill out some really beefy holes with a Hercules drill. But when you first start out, you can't go right up. You might be able to get the Hercules drill, which is a great option for power tools when you first start out because of the warranty. So any power tools you need, you could go to Harbor Freight and get Hercules, save some money, and they have a wonderful warranty where, not on all the tools, so make sure you check them, by the way. They have 5-year, I believe, on every power tool. The latest model's power tool, they might not have had it on the first ones. You just go back in there and hand them the tool and they give you a new tool. It's pretty great. You can't beat that. So that's a great option. You might even keep those pretty much your whole career if they keep making those things. But when it comes to like your multimeter, you're gonna get an Ames multimeter at Harbor Freight. Well, that's gonna work okay. But maybe you're an electrician, and if you bring Ames to work, you can get laughed and pointed at. You really wanted a Fluke multimeter, something really nice, something that electrical professionals have been using for years because it is dependable. They're fantastic, but they're also very expensive. So you get your Ames, you use it for a while, you make some money hopefully, and then you move up to that Fluke meter you want to get. Or you decide you want to do a specific task, or you get a job doing a specific task. Maybe you need a very specific multimeter or a different set of equipment. That way you're not investing too heavily at the front because you're going to develop over time. You're going to change. You're going to say, I want to do this, this, or this. I like this part of the trade, so I'm going to seek out doing something more specialized. And then you can make that decision to get the finest tool in that area. Hand tools are a little bit easier because hand tools, you can go into Harbor Freight and buy Pittsburgh hand tools or Doyle hand tools, and they're going to get you through a lot of stuff. Hand tools are a little bit more tolerable for being cheap. But when you get to the higher end hand tools, you realize how much better they feel, how much tighter the tolerances are. As in, let's say you get a screwdriver and it's a certain screwdriver. Let's say it's a Torx screwdriver or something like that. And maybe the cheapest one doesn't fit properly onto Torx heads. And then when you move up, if the tolerance is a lot better, it grips a lot better. You don't have it camming out when you're trying to work. It'll be easier to use. And just, it's the small things like that that accumulate that make those more expensive tools more desirable. But you can start out with a cheap one. Harbor Freight's a good way to start out on the cheap side, then move up to something else. There's a lot more specialized tools out there, like plumbing has specialized tools. You might have inspection scopes specifically for plumbing, drain equipment specifically for plumbing. And a lot of people will make that. Like, you can find it at Harbor Freight. You can get Ryobi versions of some of these tools. That's Home Depot. You can get cheaper versions. Because a lot of these tool companies make a lot of different tools now. And it's not just a higher end that has these trade-specific tools. You'll see that, Craftsman V20 will make some of those, or Ryobi will make some of those. And you can get them a little bit cheaper. And then over time, you can get the more trade-based ones. I consider that like Milwaukee and DeWalt. You get something that can be used more on a daily basis, more rigorous usage, and it'll come through looking a whole lot better at the end. I love Ryobi. I use Ryobi in the trades for a long time, but it's not an intense usage. In HVAC, I would use like impact drivers to hang duct, to put duct together, but it's not that rigorous of a usage. If I was drilling like 2 3/4 holes through studs every day, like a plumber might use a large corded drill for that, to run a drain line through a set of studs or something like that, then you may not trust the most affordable brand, because that's the one that's going to smoke up and not tolerate that daily usage. So that's why people go to their Milwaukees and DeWalts and Makitas for those type of drills, because they have to have it work every day. And they cost more because they're built better, and there's a little bit of that name value in there too. So over time, you can calculate which ones you have to buy in those top tier brands, and maybe you'll have a second tier that you carry too. You don't want to carry every battery under the sun like I do. You can have like your DeWalt and Craftsman. Maybe you like to go to Lowe's. Maybe get Milwaukee and Ryobi. I don't know. DeWalt and Cobalt. Flex and Cobalt. There's so many out there now. You have to decide what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. But my best suggestion is use a two-step process. Get what you can get, then figure out what you want to get or what your desires are going to lead you to. Because day one, you might not know the exact plan for the rest of your career. So you might want to kind of soak some of that in, make that decision, and then you can better decide which tools are right for you at that moment in your career. I hope this helped you guys out. I hope you have a good week out there working on whatever you're working on, whatever trade you're in. And God bless all of you.
This video is brought to you by Yellow Jacket.